The alien armada arrived without warning. One moment, the skies above Earth were clear, and the next, they were filled with massive, jagged ships, their dark hulls blotting out the sun. The invaders called themselves the Vrul, a warrior race that had conquered countless worlds. They had come expecting another easy victory. From the bridge of their flagship, the Vrul commander watched the blue planet below with amusement. The humans had no fleet, no planetary shields, no weapons capable of piercing Vrul armor. Their cities were soft, their defenses laughable. The commander signaled the fleet to descend, his voice dripping with cruel confidence. "Begin the harvest," he ordered. "Take what you want. Burn the rest." The first wave of Vrul ships descended upon Earth's major cities, raining down plasma fire. Skyscrapers crumbled, streets melted, and millions perished in moments. The Vrul laughed as they watched the chaos, their scanners confirming what they already knew: humanity had no way to fight back. But they were wrong. Deep beneath the ruins of a shattered city, in a hidden bunker, a group of scientists and soldiers watched the destruction on flickering screens. Their faces were grim, but their eyes burned with defiance. One among them, a grizzled general, turned to the others. "It's time," he said. A technician nodded, hands flying over a console. "Activating Project Reckoning." Somewhere far below, buried under layers of rock and secrecy, something awoke. Something the Vrul had not scanned. Something they had never expected. The aliens had laughed at humanity's weakness. They would not laugh for long. The bunker trembled as another distant explosion shook the surface. Dust rained from the ceiling, but the soldiers and scientists inside did not flinch. Their focus was locked onto the massive screen at the center of the room, where a single word blinked in bold red letters. "Reckoning Online." The general clenched his fists. Years of secret research, buried budgets, and whispered rumors had led to this moment. Project Reckoning was never meant to be used, at least, not unless the worst came to pass. And now, with Earth burning above them, the worst had arrived. "Status," the general barked. The lead scientist, a thin man with sharp eyes, adjusted his cracked glasses. "All systems functional. Power at 100%. Weapon ready to engage." A murmur spread through the room. No one had ever seen Reckoning in action. The simulations had been terrifying enough. Outside, the Vrul continued their assault, their ships hovering lazily over the ruins, confident in their dominance. Their scanners still showed no threats, just scattered human resistance, pitiful attempts at fighting back with missiles and railguns that barely scratched their hulls. Then, deep beneath the Earth, something stirred. A low hum resonated through the bunker, growing louder, vibrating in the bones of every person present. The lights flickered as power surged into the ancient machinery buried beneath them. The weapon was awake. On the surface, the ground began to tremble. At first, the Vrul ignored it, just another collapsing building, another dying city. But then the tremors grew stronger. Cracks split the earth, glowing with an eerie blue light. The Vrul commander, still lounging on his command throne, frowned as his sensors suddenly screamed warnings. "What is that?" he demanded. Before anyone could answer, the ground erupted. A massive beam of pure energy lanced upward from the planet's surface, slicing through the nearest Vrul cruiser like paper. The ship exploded in a silent fireball, debris raining down onto the ruins below. The commander shot to his feet. Impossible. But it was only the beginning. Across the planet, hidden silos opened. Forgotten bunkers, disguised as abandoned facilities, activated. And from each one, another beam of devastating light tore into the sky. The Vrul fleet, so confident moments before, now scrambled in panic. Their shields flickered and failed. Their ships, once invincible, burned and broke apart in the atmosphere. On the surface, the general watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. "Send the signal," he ordered. "All remaining forces, attack." The aliens had come to harvest. Now, humanity would reap their vengeance. The sky burned. Vrul ships, once hovering like invincible titans, now tumbled from the heavens in flaming wreckage. The reckoning beams had torn through their formations with terrifying precision, each blast annihilating a cruiser before the aliens could react. The commander's flagship, still hovering high above the devastation, shuddered as secondary explosions rippled through the fleet. "Report," the Vrul commander roared, his claws digging into the armrests of his throne. "Energy signatures, unknown origin," a subordinate screeched, frantically tapping at the holographic display. "They're coming from beneath the surface. Our scans never detected." Another beam lanced upward, this time from a mountain range halfway across the continent. It struck a battleship head-on, vaporizing its bridge in an instant. The rest of the vessel listed sideways, engine sputtering, before crashing into the ocean below. The commander's blood ran cold. This was no desperate last stand. This was a trap. On the ground, humanity struck back. Hidden military bases, thought abandoned, roared to life. Underground hangars slid open, revealing rows of sleek, angular fighters, craft never before seen in any human arsenal. They shot into the sky like vengeful ghosts, their engines burning blue-white as they closed in on the disoriented Vrul. The general watched from the bunker's command center, his face illuminated by the flickering tactical displays. "All wings, engage at will," he said calmly. "Priority targets, their remaining capital ships." The human fighters moved with terrifying coordination. They weaved through the Vrul's panicked return fire, their own weapons, pulse cannons reverse-engineered from decades-old alien wrecks, tearing into exposed hulls. The Vrul had expected primitive projectiles, not energy weapons that matched their own. A young pilot, his hands steady on the controls, locked onto a Vrul destroyer's engine array. Fox 3. His missile streaked away, detonating against the ship's weak point. The destroyer's thrusters flared wildly before the entire vessel erupted in a chain reaction of explosions. The Vrul commander could only watch in horror as his fleet disintegrated. "Retreat," he finally bellowed. "All ships, withdraw to high orbit." But it was too late. Deep beneath the earth, the reckoning weapon hummed again, charging for another volley. The scientists monitoring its systems exchanged grim nods. This time, they would not stop at just the low-orbit ships. Adjusting trajectory, one muttered, inputting new coordinates. Targeting their command vessel. The general folded his arms. Fire. The beam that tore through the atmosphere this time was wider, brighter, a spear of pure annihilation. It struck the Vrul flagship dead center, punching through its shields like they were nothing. For a single, terrifying second, the massive ship hung in the sky, illuminated from within by a hellish glow, then it split apart, its wreckage scattering across the stratosphere. Silence fell over the battlefield. The remaining Vrul ships, now leaderless and broken, floundered. Some tried to flee, only to be picked off by human fighters. Others self-destructed, their crews choosing death over surrender. On the ground, the survivors emerged from rubble and bunkers, staring up at the sky in disbelief. The impossible had happened. The aliens had come to conquer. Humanity had answered. And the war was far from over. The silence did not last. As the last Vrul warship broke apart in the upper atmosphere, humanity held its breath. Cities smoldered. Survivors dug through rubble, searching for loved ones. The skies, once choked with alien vessels, now swirled with ash and the contrails of human fighters returning to base. But deep in the bunker, no one celebrated. The general stared at the holographic display, watching the last flickers of Vrul signals fade from orbit. His jaw tightened. "They'll be back." A scientist nearby swallowed hard. "You think this was just a scouting force?" The general didn't answer. He didn't need to. Above Earth's moon, space rippled. At first, the lunar observatories thought it was a sensor glitch, some residual effect from the battle's energy discharges. Then the ripples multiplied. Dozens. Hundreds. The warning klaxons hadn't even finished sounding when the first Vrol dreadnought emerged from the warp distortion. Then another. And another. This wasn't a fleet. It was an armada. On Earth, panic threatened to erupt again. The general's comm unit buzzed frantically. "Sir. Lunar perimeter scanners are." "I see it," the general cut in, his voice like iron. The hologram now displayed the nightmare in cold, tactical detail. Hundreds of capital ships. Thousands of fighters. A force capable of glassing planets. The lead scientist's hands trembled over his console. "Reckoning's capacitors are at 23%. We need at least 6 hours to—" "We don't have 6 hours," the general said. He turned to a grizzled colonel. "Initiate Lazarus Protocol." The colonel paled. "Sir, that's a—" "Do it." Across the planet, in long-abandoned silos and buried facilities, ancient systems booted up for the first time in decades. The Lazarus array wasn't a weapon. It was something worse. The new Vrol commander, taller, more heavily armored than his predecessor, studied the tactical readouts with disdain. The humans had destroyed a mere vanguard force. Impressive for primitives. But now? His second-in-command hissed nervously. "Commander, we're detecting massive energy spikes from the planet's surface. Different signatures than before." The commander waved a clawed hand. "More of their pitiful tricks. All vessels, prepare to—" The alarms screamed. On Earth, 1,000 Lazarus nodes activated simultaneously. Not firing upward. Firing inward. The beams lanced deep into the planet's crust, triggering seismic events precisely calculated decades earlier. The ground shook. Tectonic plates groaned. And something beneath the Pacific Ocean woke up. The Vrol Armada had just begun their attack run when the ocean exploded. A column of superheated steam and plasma erupted from the Marianas Trench, punching through the atmosphere like a fist. The beam, wider than a city, struck the lead dreadnought with the force of a dying star. The commander had exactly 2 seconds to realize his mistake before his ship vaporized. The general watched impassively as the hologram updated. The Lazarus array wasn't designed to target ships. It was designed to awaken Earth's long-dormant planetary defense system, a relic from a forgotten age when humanity's ancestors had buried doomsday weapons in the planet's very bones. As the ocean-based ion cannon cycled for another shot, new signatures flared across the globe. Antarctica's ice sheets cracked open, revealing massive coil gun emplacements. The Sahara's sands parted, unleashing swarms of hypersonic drones. And beneath Yellowstone, something far older stirred. The surviving Vrol ships wheeled in confusion, their formation collapsing. This wasn't war. This was extermination. Humanity hadn't just fought back. They'd unleashed the planet itself as a weapon. The Vrol Armada had come expecting to crush a primitive species. Instead, they found themselves caught in a storm of Earth's own making. The ion cannon in the Pacific fired again, its second blast shearing through 3 battlecruisers at once. The beam didn't just burn, it unmade, reducing advanced alien alloys to their base molecules in a flash of blue-white annihilation. Secondary explosions rippled through nearby vessels as their power cores destabilized. On the Vrol flagship's bridge, the new commander's second-in-command staggered under another impact. "The planet, it's attacking us." The commander snarled, his claws leaving deep gouges in the command console. "Impossible. No species this young could have built." A proximity alarm shrieked. From the cracked ice of Antarctica, the massive coil guns fired. Each projectile was a 100-ton tungsten spike accelerated to relativistic speeds. They crossed the distance between Earth and the Vrol fleet in seconds, punching clean through shields and armor alike. One round struck a carrier vessel lengthwise, exiting through its engines in a shower of molten debris. The general watched the carnage unfold on his displays. Status on Yellowstone? A technician wiped sweat from his brow. 90 seconds to activation. The Vrol tried to regroup. Fighters swarmed from their remaining carriers, only to meet the Sahara's drone clouds. The machines moved with terrifying synchronicity, their hypersonic maneuvers tearing through alien formations. Where the Vrol had laughed at human pilots before, now they faced machines that didn't breathe, didn't tire, and didn't fear. A drone sliced through a Vrol fighter's cockpit, its diamond-edged wings severing the pilot before the alien could scream. Deep beneath Yellowstone, the oldest and most terrible weapon of all reached critical power. The scientists monitoring it exchanged nervous glances. None of them fully understood the technology, only that it had been buried there long before recorded history, waiting for this moment. Energy spike detected, someone shouted. The ground trembled. In orbit, the Vrol commander finally gave the order he'd never imagined speaking. Full retreat. All ships. The Yellowstone weapon fired. Not upward. Outward. A sphere of golden energy expanded from the planet's surface at light speed, enveloping everything in the inner solar system. Vrol ships caught in the wave didn't explode, they simply stopped existing, their atoms unraveling at a fundamental level. The commander had time for one final, horrified thought: this was no backwater world, before his consciousness dissolved into the void. On Earth, the general watched as the holographic display went dark. Then, one by one, the stars reappeared. No debris. No wreckage. Nothing to indicate the Vrol Armada had ever existed. The bunker was silent. A young lieutenant whispered, "Did we just win?" The general didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on the display where new alerts were already appearing, deep space probes detecting fresh warp signatures at the system's edge. "Not yet," he said quietly. "But now they know." He turned to face the room. "Now the whole galaxy knows what happens when you push humanity too far." The silence in the bunker was deafening. Every screen showed the same impossible image, empty space where moments before, hundreds of Vrol warships had darkened the sky. The Yellowstone weapon had erased them from existence with a single pulse of golden light. The young lieutenant who had spoken earlier swallowed hard. "Sir, what was that?" The general exhaled slowly, his eyes never leaving the main display. "Insurance." Across the room, scientists scrambled to analyze the data. The weapon beneath Yellowstone had drained nearly 80% of its power reserves in that single blast. Initial readings suggested it wouldn't be ready to fire again for years, if ever. A technician suddenly stiffened. "New contacts. Edge of the solar system." Every head turned. The holographic display zoomed out, revealing a cluster of unidentified signatures materializing beyond Pluto's orbit. But these weren't Vrol warp signatures. The energy patterns were different, smoother, almost elegant. "Are they?" "Not Vrol," the general confirmed. "Someone else just noticed what happened here." The alien observers had been watching from afar. Their sleek, silver vessels hung motionless at the solar system's edge, sensors drinking in every terrifying detail of Earth's defense. These were the Kelder, an ancient race who had monitored the Vrol's conquests for centuries. Never had they seen a species fight back like this. On the lead Kelder vessel, the captain studied the data with something akin to awe. "The humans didn't just defeat the Vrol," she murmured. "They unmade them." Her second-in-command tapped a clawed finger against the display. "That weapon, it predates their civilization. By millennia." The captain nodded slowly. "Which means someone gave it to them." A chilling thought settled over the bridge. There were older powers in the universe. Far older. And if they had taken an interest in humanity? "Open a channel to the High Council," the captain ordered. "Tell them we found the inheritors." Back on Earth, celebrations had begun in the ruined cities. People wept in the streets, embracing strangers as the news spread, the invaders were gone. The nightmare was over. But in the bunker, no one cheered. The general listened as reports flooded in from around the globe. The Lazarus array was offline. The Pacific ion cannon had melted its firing mechanisms. Antarctica's coil guns would need months of repairs. And Yellowstone. "Sir," a scientist said quietly, "we can't guarantee that weapon will ever work again." The general nodded. He'd expected as much. Then the alarm sounded. "General. We're being hailed." "By who?" The technician's face went pale. "They're identifying themselves as the Kelder hegemony." A murmur swept through the command center. The Kelder were legend, a civilization so advanced, most species considered them myths. The general straightened his uniform. "Put them through." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a strikingly humanoid face with violet eyes and silver skin. The alien's gaze was piercing, calculating. "Human commander," the Kelder captain spoke, her voice oddly melodic. "You have accomplished the impossible today." The general didn't blink. "We defended our home." A hint of a smile touched the alien's lips. "Indeed. And in doing so, you have drawn the attention of powers far beyond the Vril." She leaned forward. "You do not yet understand what sleeps beneath your world. Or why it was placed there." The room went still. "What are you saying?" the general asked slowly. The Kelder's eyes gleamed. "I'm saying your war has only just begun. And we wish to help you prepare for what comes next." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bunker in stunned silence. Outside, fireworks lit up the night sky as humanity celebrated its victory. Underground, the general stared at the blank screen, a single terrible thought crystallizing in his mind. We were never alone. And we were never meant to win. The general's hands clenched into fists as the Kelder transmission ended. Around him, the bunker's command staff stood frozen, the weight of the alien's words pressing down like a physical force. "You do not yet understand what sleeps beneath your world." A young lieutenant broke the silence first. "Sir, what does this mean?" Before the general could answer, the main display flickered back to life, not with another alien transmission, but with seismic readings from across the globe. Deep beneath the Earth's crust, something was moving. The lead scientist rushed to his console, fingers flying across the keyboard. "My God, it's not just Yellowstone. We're getting energy spikes from 12 different locations worldwide. All identical to the weapon's signature." The general's blood ran cold. "Show me." A holographic map of the Earth materialized, pulsing with red markers at precise, equidistant points. The pattern was unmistakable, a perfect geometric grid spanning the entire planet. "These aren't weapons," the scientist whispered. "They're anchors." On the Kelder flagship, the captain watched Earth's energy signatures spike with grim satisfaction. "Activation sequence initiated," her second-in-command reported. "All nodes responding." The captain nodded. "Just as the precursors foretold." She turned to view the blue-green world floating in the distance. For millennia, the Kelder had watched over this unassuming planet, waiting for the day its latent systems would awaken. The Vril invasion had been unfortunate, but necessary, a catalyst to push humanity toward its destiny. "Open the quantum channel," the captain ordered. "Inform the High Council the inheritance protocol has begun." Back on Earth, panic spread through the bunker as new alerts screamed from every terminal. "Sir! We're losing control of all defense systems. Yellowstone is powering up again, against our commands. Multiple unidentified energy surges detected in." The general slammed his fist on the console. "Shut it all down. Now." The lead scientist shook his head, face ashen. "We can't. We were never in control. These systems, they're responding to something else. A deep, resonant hum began vibrating through the bunker's walls. The lights flickered wildly as power surged through hidden conduits buried deep within the planet's crust. Then the Earth spoke. A voice, impossibly ancient, neither male nor female but something beyond both, echoed through every speaker, every radio, every communication device on the planet simultaneously. Inheritors awakened. Final protocol engaged. Across the globe, people screamed as the ground trembled. In cities still smoking from the Vril attack, strange structures began emerging from the earth, towers of gleaming silver metal that unfolded like flowers blooming in fast motion. The general watched in horror as the holographic display updated in real time. 12 massive installations had surfaced at precise coordinates worldwide, each emitting energy signatures that dwarfed even Yellowstone's weapon. "What the hell are those?" someone shouted. The lead scientist's hands trembled as he read the data. "They're transmitters." "But the power output?" The general understood instantly. "They're not for Earth. They're for something beyond Earth." In deep space, at the edge of the observable universe, something stirred. The Kelder captain smiled as her sensors detected the first ripple in the fabric of reality. "They're coming," she whispered reverently. Her crew stared in awe as the stars themselves seemed to shift, entire constellations rearranging in impossible patterns. Space tore open along seams no species should have been able to perceive, revealing glimpses of something vast moving through the void. On Earth, the general finally understood the terrible truth. The weapons. The buried technology. The Kelder's sudden interest. None of it had been about defending humanity. They'd been bait. The ancient voice spoke again, shaking the planet to its core. "The wait is over. The harvesters have returned." The holographic display zoomed out to show the solar system, and the thousands of massive, planet-sized constructs now emerging from warp space. Not Vril. Something infinitely older. Something humanity had apparently been created to summon. The general turned to his stunned staff, his voice barely above a whisper. "God help us all."